Oh my gosh. Hi. Hi everybody. Welcome and or welcome back to my channel. I liked it. I do think that the audiobook did do it justice. I really enjoyed the idea of reading it, watching it. So it's so nice. It is already the end of the month and I don't know where the time went. It is the end of April, and for some reason I keep wanting to say that it's like the end of March, but surely tomorrow is May 1st, which means we are going to be doing another reading wrap up for the month of April. And then I'm also going to be going over the books that I plan to read in May. So very exciting. I didn't read as much as I thought I would in the month of April. I read 6 books, which is still really good. I just have gotten so busy and I just work and life and all the above. I'm having a good time. I wish I could do it all, you know, but we will be going over these 6 books that I read in April, and yeah, let's just get into it. I don't think there's anything to really preface further here. So starting off with the first book that I read this month and finished this month was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I did talk about this in a previous vlog because I was reading this. It was a couple of videos ago, so I gave my general consensus there. However, for those of you that don't know, Abby Jimenez is an author that has come out with many other romance, literary fiction, romance, women's fiction, romance books, about 6 other books, I believe, and this is her newest release as of this year. It is going to be a part of an interconnected series. Pretty much all of her other books are a part of interconnected series, and they tend to be 3-book series. This book, Say You'll Remember Me, this is going to be the first book, a part of this interconnected series, the Say You'll Remember Me series. This one follows Xavier and Samantha. They meet in Minnesota. He is a veterinarian and she works in social media, and they spend a really fun and great first date together, but they quickly find out after the night is over that Samantha has to move back to LA. She has had something with family come up recently in her life, and she needs to go to LA to be there and support her family in this time, and it just really goes through their relationship together and what they're willing to do for each other to keep this going, because this first date was just not a fluke, and they truly believe that, especially Xavier just truly believes that like this could be something more. And so a lot of it is them being long distance and trying to navigate what that looks like for their life, but also Samantha and Xavier navigating other very personal and hard struggles that they're going through in their lives. And that is something that I just love so much about Abby Jimenez's books, is that it's so much romance, but these subplots and the other plots of these characters going through real life struggles is so real and raw and genuine, and it really helps me connect more with the characters. And I love how them navigating their struggles really help them build the relationship together, because once they learn to heal and understand their emotions, it just helps them become a better couple together. And I think she does that so well in every single one of her books, and it's one of like her specialties, you know, in her writing. And she does it extremely well again with Xavier and Samantha. I ended up rating this book a 4.5 stars. I have seen a lot of discourse on this book since it was released, and I think something that tends to happen when an author, director, singer, actor, whatever it may be, becomes super popular, they're open to obviously a lot of criticism and a lot more public opinion, and it's totally fair. Everything is very subjective, like everyone has the right to their own opinion. But I've seen a lot of negative, a lot of positive, but very like nobody's really in the middle about how they feel about this book. I've seen people say that they thought it was rushed or they thought it was cringy. Honestly, it depends on the author and the genre for me, but I rate books pretty much based on like if I'm very entertained and if I just like liked it, you know? Like I will rate different books on like a harder scale, just depending again on the genre, author, plot, you know, whatever. But like she just writes like women's fiction romance, and I was entertained. I had a good time. I do remember like kind of cringing at some of the dialogue in this book, but it was like so quick for me that I was just able to like forget that it happened and move on, you know? Like it didn't sit with me like that. So I had a great time reading it. I will say that it's not like my favorite book of hers. I still enjoy Yours Truly and Just for the Summer will forever be like my top books by Abby Jimenez. So yeah, I had a great time. I think maybe go in with Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for the Summer first if you're new to Abby Jimenez. I also read her first 3 books that she published, and those ones are not my favorite. I will say my least favorite book is The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez, and so I guess when I'm like internally comparing her writing and her books, I'm just like, well, this wasn't bad, because I really didn't like The Friend Zone. This is 10 times better. But those are obviously just my thoughts and opinions, so yeah, that's me. I rated this a 4.5 stars. That's so you'll remember me. I then read this fun and super quick story by Takashi Hirade called The Guest Cat. This was recommended via a TikTok. It was a TikTok about like books that feel like Studio Ghibli movies, and this was one of them, and it was super sweet. I ended up rating it a 4 stars. There was nothing wrong with it. It's a very like short story, and it did what it had to. But essentially this couple that lives in Tokyo, they're older, they don't have any kids, they have a pretty mundane life. This cat this like stray cat that ends up being like, you know, adopted by the next door neighbor, starts coming in and out of their house, and they just experience different joys with this cat. And yeah, it just kind of follows their life with the cat. Again, it's a short story, so I'm not gonna like spoil anything because that would just be me spoiling literally the whole book. But yeah, I ended up rating it a 4 stars, and I think I want to start picking up more books like this that are just short stories and super like wholesome and heartwarming. So yeah, that was The Guest Cat. I then listened to The Invisible Life by Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Now, I did not have the physical copy for it. I saw so many people say so many good things about it. I had no intentions of reading it this month. However, I went on Libby and I requested the audio version, and it said it was going to be a couple of weeks, and then they ended up just sending it to me right away, and I was like, okay, I'll just listen to it now then. Like, I'll just give it a try. And I loved it so much I ended up going out and buying the copy because I'm going to read it again with my own eyes. Okay, my camera was dying. We're okay now. We're all good. But I was talking about how much I love The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I listened to it so much that I had to purchase this on Independent Bookstore Day because there was 20% off, and it's also Independent Bookstore Day. So I was like, why not support them by buying a book that I really truly think sometime this year I'm going to reread it, even though I just listened to it, because of how much of an impact this had on me. And I can't believe it was such like not a fluke. I'm so sorry. Did you guys know that, fun fact, my camera doesn't charge unless it's turned off? So that's that. I was in the middle of my passionate description of this book and I rudely was cut off again. So here I am to just say that I rated The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue a 4.5 stars. I will be reading the physical copy sometime later this year so that I can annotate it and go back through the quotes, because really, this book, I just know it had so many incredible quotes that I was listening to, and I loved listening to it. But there's just something about reading it with my own eyes and being able to tab it and go back to it whenever I would like to. However, I do think that the audiobook did do it justice. I really enjoyed the narrator. I thought she did an amazing job. This book, I don't want to give away anything. I think going into it as I did without knowing a lot was an incredible experience. But I will read like what's on the back of it just because it's a very short description, and I think it kind of sets the tone for it. So, in France of 1714, in a moment of desperation, a young woman named Adeline meets a dangerous stranger and makes a terrible mistake. It will be 300 years before she stumbles into a hidden bookstore and discovers someone who can remember her name, and suddenly everything changes again. So, 300 years, nobody remembers her name, nobody can remember who she is, until one day in 2014, somebody does. And that's really just like the short synopsis of it. Please read it, highly recommend. But I truly had such an amazing reading month this month, and I think this was probably one of my favorite reads, which is saying a lot because I had a couple of new releases and exciting reads this month, but this one really, like, it's a top competitor. I absolutely loved it. And this is my first book by V.E. Schwab. I feel like this is an author that I see all the time in bookstores and hear so much about, so I definitely will have to pick up. I think her other books are like parts of a series, so maybe I'll look into that later this year, but this is definitely oh, this made me tear up. I finished it on a walk because I was listening to it, and so I went on a walk, finished it. Oh my gosh, I was tearing up. I think if I read it, I'll actually cry reading it because I was so incredibly invested. I've never been that invested in an audiobook before, so that says a lot. That was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I'll never forget you, girl. I'll never forget you. Because we're like this. Yeah. Yep. The next book that I read was my most exciting release of this entire year, and I received it as an ARC from Berkeley Romance, so thank you so much to Berkeley for giving me the ARC of Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. My last video was an entire reading vlog of me reading Great Big Beautiful Life, and then I posted my thoughts and opinions at the end of that, so if you want to see all of that, you can go watch it there. I'll keep it pretty spiffy here just because I feel like I've been talking about this book for a while now, but I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it a 4.5 stars, and something that I noticed was that, okay, so let me tell you what it's about actually. This follows Alice and Hayden. They are two journalists, and they end up finding this woman named Margaret Ives, who is a part of a family that was super famous, infamous in the early 20th century, and she has since gone into hiding. Nobody's seen her in years or heard from her, and she comes from just a very notorious family that was so journaled her younger years, and not for good reasons. It was always scandalous and, you know, just the craziest stories. And ever since her husband passed away, she's been in hiding. And so these two journalists are competing for the opportunity to write about her life, the biography of her life. They're competing though because she wants to identify the person that she trusts the most and that she thinks will do her story justice. So we're just going back and forth through that. The main plot of this book is, I would say, not romance. I know that this has been kind of a big topic and argument, I feel, like on TikTok and the internet. The romance is so good. It's done so well and I do love it, but it is not the main focus of this book. What really drew me in was Margaret's story and the journalism aspect of it, and really trying to unravel all the mystery of her life and just like what happened with her great-grandfather and her grandfather that led this family to this point of, you know, what they're known as today as the Ives family. Now, this book didn't feel like an overall 5 stars to me. I just didn't get that feeling personally. However, it's a 4.5 stars. I still thought that it was fantastic, and it felt so much like Emily Henry, and I was in such like a, I don't even know, like a daze reading it because I couldn't believe that I had it in my hands. And so I didn't mark anything, but I definitely am going to go through and reread it because I also realized that the only other book of hers that I haven't read twice is Funny Story. So I'm also going to reread that later this year. So I thought when I reread that, maybe I can reread this and then see if any of my thoughts or opinions change, but genuinely just didn't get a 5-star feeling. Even though I said I love the romance and that it wasn't mostly based on the romance in the plot, I still thought that it kind of lacked in some ways and felt a little bit rushed to me. I go a little bit more into that in my video about the book, but that's kind of my whole consensus on rating it 4.5 stars rather than higher or lower. But overall, I really enjoyed this, and I love Emily. I love Emily Henry so much. She is my favorite author, and I just couldn't believe that I got this sent to me and that it's just even here and out now. So if you read it, comment down below. Let me know what you rated it, okay? I don't know. This is another one, like Say You'll Remember Me, where I've seen a lot of people rate it either very high or pretty low on their list. And I think it just depends on what type of like plot, storytelling, and writing that you enjoy. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I liked it. I promise I don't have low standards. I'm rating all these books super high, but I truly just enjoyed a lot of the books that I read this month. I then read An Ember in the Ashes. This is by Sabaa Tahir, and this had been sitting on my TBR cart for months. I don't know why I never picked it up. I think I was a little intimidated to be getting back into a series because I believe, yeah, there's 4 books in the series. So I was like, okay, need to wait a minute until I can, you know, feel like I'm ready to start another fantasy series. I believe this is YA fantasy, but I am so mad at myself that I let this sit on my TBR cart for so long because I loved it. This was so fun, so good. Okay, so this story follows Leia, who is a part of a scholar family that are currently living under the Marshall Empire. And here, the Marshall Empire does not favor the scholars. They have had a feud. Marshall Empire overtook the scholars many years ago, and so any defiance that is shown does not sit well with the Marshall Empire. They do not survive any defiance that they show the Marshall Empire. So Leia and her family have been laying low, but she quickly has her family taken from her for a multitude of reasons, and then her brother ends up being arrested for treason. And so now she is all by herself, and she is willing to do just literally whatever it takes for her to get her brother back, because that is the last person that she has. And I mean, what's a girl to do, right? So she's like, okay, I'm gonna go within. I am going to sneak my way into the Empire and find a way to find where my brother is and get him out of prison, because this literally is not good for anybody. We also get the point of view of Elias. Elias is one of the strongest, best soldiers in the Marshals academy. It's like their school that they have where they train all the future soldiers, and he is the best soldier. There's a lot expected of him. His family has high rankings in the Marshall Empire. However, we very quickly figure out that Elias hates it. He wants nothing to do with it. He didn't even really grow up that much. In his early years, he didn't really grow up much around it. And so he's like, I remember a life without this, and I don't want this. I don't think this is okay. I don't think this is how we should be treating our people. And as time goes on, Elias and Leia, their lives start intertwining, and they find out how much their decisions have such an impact on not only themselves, but the people around them. And it is wild. There are so many crazy twists and turns, and there's a trial that goes on in here. It does leave off on a little bit of a cliffhanger, and thank God, the other 3 books are already released. I already bought the second book, so I will be reading that as soon as possible. But I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was so fun, so entertaining, very as original as it could be. There's definitely tropes and things that happen, trial is nothing new, but I just love the way that it was written and the way that it was told. And yeah, it was just very, very fun and such a fast read. I think for as thick of a book as this is, I read it pretty quickly, and I don't know, I think that just says something about how much I enjoy a book. But yeah, a 4.25 stars. Nothing really wrong with it. It just wasn't a 5-star read for me, but I can see where if the books continue to be as good as this one or better, how it can be a 5-star series for me. I know it's early on to say that. We have a lot to get through, but yeah, I also thought something that was very interesting for it being a YA fantasy. It got into a lot of detail of the gruesome things that they encountered, and the author does not hold back on the brutal parts of the Marshall Empire and what everyone here has to endure just to survive. So I also thought that was really intriguing and definitely kept me on my toes for sure. I then read The Passion Project by London Sperry. I don't have the physical copy because I received the e-copy from NetGalley, so thank you NetGalley for the free e-copy of this book. I really, really enjoyed this one. I saw so much hype around it, and sometimes that makes me a little nervous going into new releases when you see so much love for something, because I really don't want to rain on anyone's parade, and I also don't want to be let down either. But I went into this just thinking anything can happen, and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't a 5-star read for me. It wasn't anything too, crazy for me in terms of rating. I did end up rating it a 4 stars, but we essentially follow the main character, Bennett, and her life is just misery. She just can't catch a break. She's so depressed. She's grieving the life of her first love. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago, and life has just been so hard for her. She just can't get past this. And fortunately, very quickly in the book, she meets Henry Adams, who is the main male character. Throughout this journey, they decide to become friends, and they start what is called the Passion Project, and it is essentially both of them going all around New York City trying to identify what Bennett can find passion in and what will make her Bennett again, what will make her happy again, what will get her out of just this horrible guilt rut that she has been living in for so long. And I just thought it was so heartwarming and also heartbreaking at the same time. I thought that the author did a really great job at also making the characters and their feelings feel so real and raw and emotional, and Bennett just opens up so much to us, and it makes it just feel so real. And you know, her first love's name is Sam, and it really also makes you feel for Sam and like the love of what could have been with them, and how this guilt really has been eating her alive. So yeah, it's a lot. I would suggest going through maybe some trigger warnings before. They talk a lot, you know, about like depression, anxiety, grief, obviously, and I thought it was really well done. I really enjoyed Henry's character. I thought he was such a gentleman, and it was really refreshing to read about them just kind of building more of a friendship first and foremost before anything, you know, went in any other direction. I just love that aspect. It really was just two people coming together to become friends and find out what in their lives can make Bennett happier, and what do we have in common, how do we get along, what are some fun things that we can go do together. Like, that was so fun to me. And I also thought that the New York City like vibe and background of it all was also just fun. I love New York City and I love reading about it, so it was so fun to see like all the little adventures that they went on together. Now, the ending was a little bit rushed for me, in my opinion. I thought that some of the things that ended up happening and that were said were a little unfair to one of the main characters, and it just didn't really sit right with me. I also think in terms of it being rushed, there were so many special moments that happened in wrapping up this story that I thought we could have honestly seen more about. I don't know how long this book really is physically because I read the e-copy, but I honestly think this book could have been longer, and I don't typically say that about a lot of books, but I think we could have benefited more from seeing them in these sweet, peaceful moments towards the end. But that's just my opinion. I really also didn't dislike any of the characters, which I think is so impressive and such a plus for them to have so many like side characters coming in from like all different friend groups and family and whatnot. And there wasn't anyone that I really disliked. Like, I thought that everyone's perspective was so interesting and unique and sweet, and I loved all the connections and relationships that they built along the way. So yeah, I mean, overall, I honestly just thought it could have been like longer. So, which is kind of wild to say. I don't know if I've ever really said that about a book. But yeah, overall, I thought it had a really hopeful message. I did like laugh throughout the book. I think in my review, I also put that like I cringed a little bit, but like in a good way. Like, I cringed because I was like, ooh, like why would you say and do that? But like, it was like purposeful, I feel, and very intentional in the story for like the reader to cringe, you know? And then I also teared up at the end because it got very emotional, and I was like, wow, packs a punch, you know? But that was Passion Project. I rated it a 4 stars. I'm gonna move on to what I'm currently reading and then what I plan to read in the month of May, okay? So, I am currently reading The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is the second book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I read the first book, and then me and my boyfriend watched the movie, and so now I am reading the second book, and then we will be watching the movie as well. I am slowly but surely making my way through this. I wanted to finish it in April, but then Passion Project came up, and it's a very dense read. I'm enjoying it, but it's very dense. I'm about 41% of the way through. Did I mention this? I'm half listening to it on Lippy and then half reading it, so that I'm not getting too stuck on it. It's taking me a while. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. It's taking me a while, but it's not because I dislike it. Again, it's just very dense, and it's an old-timey fantasy, to say the least. But I'm really enjoying all the adventures that the characters are going on. A lot of, like, literally all the characters that you meet in the first book that you love so much are now split up into they're all on different journeys now, and you get to follow them along the way and see all the friends and adventures that they make. And it's such a classic, and I love it. If you love fantasy, give it a try. The movies are really fun. I really love the idea of like reading it and then watching the movies after, personally. So that's what I'm currently reading. And then very quickly, because dinner is ready and it is getting dark outside, I'm gonna go over the books that I want to read in May. I have 5 books that I want to read. I'm gonna be reading 6 in total, but one of the books will be for work. And so yeah, I'm reading 6 books, but only 5 of them are like for fun. The 6th one is for work. That's just how it goes. The first one that I really want to read is My Grandmother Told Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Frederick Bachman. I saw this at a used bookstore, and my goal is to read every single book by Frederick Bachman. He's become so quickly one of my favorite authors, and so this is next up on the list. I think it's going to make me cry. I think it's going to be emotional. This young girl is very close to her grandmother who passes away, and then she finds her grandmother's letters that are apologies to these people throughout her life. So now her granddaughter is on this mission to go talk to all of these people. I'm excited to read it. I don't know. I then am going to be reading A Torch Against the Night. Look how beautiful this blue cover is. And I also love the red cover. This is the second book to the An Ember in the Ashes series, A Torch Against the Night. I'm not going to go over what it's about because the first book leaves off on kind of a cliffhanger. And if you guys want to read it, I don't want to spoil it for you. But it is the second book in the An Ember in the Ashes series. Is there a name for this series, or is it just An Ember in the Ashes? I don't know. I'll have to do my research, but gorgeous. So excited to read this one. I will then be reading Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This will be my first ever Kennedy Ryan book, and I'm so excited. I believe this is the first book in an interconnected series. It's romance, women's fiction. I've heard that it's very similar to like kind of how Emily Henry and Abby Jimenez, like I said earlier, write women's fiction with like a lot of like subplot romance, or, you know, romance based, but also women's fiction, a little bit of both. And I'm just really excited to get into it. A lot of people have said it's very emotional, real, intriguing, unique, all the above. This cover is also gorgeous, and I just love a good story about a woman that packs a little punch, adds a little bit more, especially if there's like a romance involved. That is just like the triple threat, you know? So very excited to get into this one. This will be, again, my first Kennedy Ryan book, and I'm very excited. I've literally heard nothing but good things about it, so I do kind of have high hopes for it, honestly. Okay, and then at the end of this month, I have a lot of like traveling and family coming into town, so that's why I'm also limiting my TBR for this month, because I want to be able to live my life and enjoy everything happening, but also, you know, get some reading done too. I have Wild and Wrangled. This is kind of a full circle moment. So I read Done and Dusted, the first book in this interconnected series, last year in May when I went to San Francisco. I picked it up at the airport as just like a quick plane read, and it was a quick plane read. Like I read pretty much all of it at the airport and on the airplane. And I loved it. I was like, wow, I've never read a cowboy romance before. So then I read the next two books in the series, and the fourth and final one just came out, Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. And I'm so excited to read it, and I'm going on a trip at the end of this month, so I am full circle going to bring this book on the trip with me. It's just like a very, you know, like compact paperback, so I thought it would be perfect to bring with me in my travels. But again, it's also full circle because I got Done and Dusted last May at the airport. So, you know, I thought that they would just be, I don't know, maybe that's just me. And then the fifth book that I plan on reading at the end of this month that I don't have with me because it's not been released yet is Rewind It Back by Liz Tom Ford. This is a part of the Windy City series. This is a sports romance interconnected series. It has quickly become one of my most favorite, close to my heart series ever. I'm just obsessed with all these characters and all their stories. I have to reread the series at some point, but I don't even know what it is, but it is the most addicting series ever, and it's so bittersweet that it's ending. Like, I'm actually so sad about it. But she did announce that a novella is going to be released within this like universe. I don't know if it's like later this year or next year. I think it's next year, but that gives me a little bit more hope. But I'm gonna have to like keep rereading this series to like feel something again, because I'm so devastated that it's over. I just want it to keep going, but like obviously I get it. We can't always be writing about the same people. We can, but we don't, so, you know. But that will be the fifth book that I plan on reading. I'm going to like some bookstores when I go on my trip at the end of this month, and I think that's the book that I'm gonna try to buy because I believe it comes out when I'm on my trip. So yeah, that's the fifth book I'm gonna read this month. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys had an amazing month of April. I hope you guys read like a good book at some point in April. If not, I hope May is just the reading month for you. If you've read any of these books, comment down below your non-spoilery thoughts. I love talking about books. I love discussing books. So if you had different opinions, similar opinions to me, let me know down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.